Hello, I'm John, and before we head off to Singapore today, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to our recent patrons for joining our arty community. So thanks go to Karen Van Pottick, Marie Millard, Cadice Fillmore, Kay Hoofnagel. You're challenging me with your names today. Sue Craigier, Matilda Para Aguila, and Tina Adkins. Thank you so much for your support. I know you'll enjoy yourselves with all the art events we have throughout the month. Now, today on this patron special show, Shopkeep Arty are zooming live to Singapore, where we're going to be joining international watercolourist Marvin Chu to draw and paint a cottage in the Cotswolds, England. So actually, let's zoom to him now. These 1-hour special shows are designed to give our patrons an extended boost of creative inspiration with leading artists and teachers from around the world. Although you can just watch, we highly recommend painting along, as you can then think of the right questions to ask. For reference photos and recommended materials, simply visit our website or see links in the description. I think I can see Marvin down there. Yep, he's in his studio. Let's go to him now. Hello, Marvin.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you doing?
Yes, circular building just now. Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well,
Thanks so much.
it's really great to be with you again. And I was wondering, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier before we started the show, but have you started getting out and traveling a bit more now?
Not really. I'm still stuck here in Singapore. I guess the travel restriction in Singapore is still quite tight because we had a recent spike in cases and the number is still rising as we speak. So yeah, so still stuck here.
But at least you've got painting to keep you company, so that's the most important thing. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can create today. But before we do, a quick 30-second word on how these special patron shows work. So first of all, we're going to walk through the preparation, and this might include sketching, talking theory, or applying the first layers of paint. Then, while that dries, we're going to take the opportunity to see some examples of Marvin's previous works of art for inspiration, as well as discuss his upcoming 2 to 3 hour workshop webinar, which is happening later this month. And then finally, we're going to complete the tutorial by adding more layers to the painting, after which you can then share what you've done at home on our Facebook or Instagram page for feedback and comments. So without further ado, let's get back to Marvin and we'll make a start. And I can see on Marvin's board we've already got the cottage that we're actually going to be painting, and hopefully all of you at home have got that picture up from our website, shopkeeparty.com. So you've got everything ready. And when were you here, Marvin?
I was in England 3 years ago in 2018 for the International Watercolor Masters exhibition. And so I arrived about 2 to 3 weeks earlier with my wife. So we just drove around and went to Cotswolds, obviously, and as well as Cornwall and a few other places. I'm a massive Liverpool fan, of course. That's one of the destinations.
Oh, brilliant. So did you have a tour of their stadium?
Yes, I did.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Wow. But they wouldn't let you paint it, I'm assuming. Probably a limited amount of time in the stadium.
I did a quick sketch
Oh,
outside the
did
stage.
you? Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. Brilliant. Well, they're doing very well this season, so hopefully, you never know. Klopp's done a really good job. Right now, where should people start then with this subject?
Okay, so I did this piece, also a demo piece for my students um, when I came back. So that's the year says 2018. So if you compare this with the reference photo that you had, um, I kind of crop it and then zoom in a little, so you don't see much of the cherry blossom, is it, or the plant, a tree here. The reason I did that is because in the photo, this chimney is kind of in the middle of the photo, so it's kind of split the paper into half. So usually I try to avoid that. So I zoom it a little bit more so that the chimney is slightly to the left here, and it fulfills the what do you call it, that one third or composition rule, if you like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and simplify a lot of things. And if you look at the picture, the bricks are very detailed. So when it comes to painting impressionist style such as this, I only use a fair bit of, like dry brush strokes, just a few suggested marks to show the brickwork. It's not really in details. I know some people like to paint them in details, but I kind of try to keep them simple and minimalist, so that the focus is on the entire landscape or the entire street scene instead of focusing too much on details. Shall we start?
Yeah, let's make a start. Perfect.
Okay, so I'll put this away, and I have a blank piece of paper here. This is 100% cotton watercolor paper by the brand name of Bao Hong. It's made in China. If you can't get that in England, don't worry, you can get any 100% watercolor paper, like Saunders or Arches. All right. And for today, I'm not gonna try and complete the full painting because that will take a few more hours. What I'm gonna do today is just focus on drawing and painting the cottage itself. So it will be just the main house, this part of it. If we got time, maybe I'll finish the whole roll of it, but we will focus on the main one, okay? So what I'm gonna do is to sketch it, draw the shape, outline, and I'll talk about a bit about the perspective that's involved, and then how I'm gonna approach adding colors, and then we'll go on for a tiny break also so that John can take over. All right, so let's start. As I mentioned earlier, try not to have anything that is placed right in the middle of your paper. In this case, if you look at the picture, it seems like the chimney, it's kind of tall. So you don't want that chimney to be placed right in the middle. So what I'm gonna do is put it slightly to the left here, and that fulfills the rules of third or one third composition rule. Yeah, and I'll just make a mark here that this is where the tip or the top of the chimney, and I'll also make a mark here where I want the pavement or the roadside, right? Okay, just placing these two marks, and then I'm going to talk about the perspectives involved. If you look at the reference photo, if you've been doing a lot of street scene sketches or drawing or painting, straight away you can tell that this is a two-point perspective. But for beginners, you may struggle a bit because there's a rod here, there's another rod here, and then if you look at the picture, the side of the house, some of it seems not really straight up, It's something to do with our camera, a bit of a lens distortion as well, because when I took this photo, I'm standing quite close to the cottage already, and that gives an illusion of we call it a three-point perspective, whereby the side of the wall tend to go this way diagonally instead of going straight up. That's because when you're too close to a building, when you look up, that's the perspective you will see. But when it comes to painting, especially for kind of this is just a two-story building, we tend to. I prefer to straighten up the vertical lines so that it looks straight and proper. Okay, so let's start with the perspective. Usually for me, the first thing that I want to establish when I look at any perspective drawing or when I look at street scenes like this is to establish the eye level. And on the reference photo, it's really nice to have that two figures walking down the streets, and they're wearing brightly red jacket, both of them. Maybe they're Liverpool fans as well. Okay, so just kidding. So what you want is to establish your eye level. So if I'm about the same height as both of them, you can see the man is slightly taller, but doesn't matter. If you just put a line across where their eyes should be, so I would say somewhere along this line. It doesn't have to be that accurate. Should be somewhere there. Okay, just do a horizontal line across there. When it comes to my own painting, usually I don't draw this line. I'll just make a mark here at the side of the tab, just to remind me, okay, this is where the eye level is. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is to mark where the corner of the house is. Corner, where, as in this line here. So if this is the chimney here, okay, I would say the corner is probably somewhere here. Yeah. Okay. Now with these two lines, I can now work out the entire perspective. So this rod is stretched that way. Okay. And then the roof will come down this way, right? And there's a vanishing points over here, and there's another vanishing point further away on the left. So for this point here and this point, if you do a line like this, okay, and extend this line, these two lines will eventually join at the vanishing point at the far left, right? So with this, I can now draw another line. This is the width of the wall on the left, yeah? And I probably make this slightly too high, but in that case, I'm going to raise the chimney a little higher. And that's the roof, okay? And from the top of the roof, it's the same perspective line. And for this line to meet the vanishing point somewhere here, it has to come down this way, right? Okay. I think I've drawn it slightly bigger, but it's okay. Bigger the better. You can see it more clearly, I suppose. So then you go to draw two vertical lines down for the chimney. In the photo, because this side is brightly lit, you don't really see this line, but you see the side of this line, the side of the chimney here. So you may want to make it slightly thicker. Okay. And this is the slope of the roof that should be more or less parallel. And then you have this little, I don't know what you call this. Is this the attic? I don't think it's the attic. It's just a roof that comes out from here. And there's another house at the back. And for the main house, it ends after this point here. And there's another one, which is a single story building. And another cottage here. And it also has this over here. Slightly narrower. And then from here, this is another angle for the building behind. Now, if you look at it, this side of it is facing the left. So this side of the wall and this is facing the same direction, right? So meaning to say this line and the roof line here follows this perspective, right? Whereas this side of the cottage is having the same perspective as this wall here because they're facing the other side, right? And with this line coming down, you will have this line this way. And then you can find the center and plot it this way so that the roof coming down is this way. Okay, and those are the back. I'll just ignore them. Okay, there's some plants here, trees or whatever. Okay, so you want to get this all in before you start putting in all the windows and doors, because you want to get the main structure of the house correct in terms of perspective. Otherwise, if you just start putting in all the windows before you complete the whole structure, you end up struggling and then try to adjust, and then there's no point of putting in the windows earlier. Okay, I think I might have drawn it a little bit higher, but never mind. Okay, and then there's another chimney here. I understand that on top of the chimney, some of them has this clay vase or pots or something like that. I'm not sure what it is for, but I find it very interesting and unique.
I think it's to diffuse the smoke, and it makes sure that nothing falls down falls down the chimney.
I see. Interesting.
So it's kind of like a cap, but it allows the smoke to escape, but nothing to fall down, like a dead bird or something.
I understand. Okay. Well, because I drew this slightly higher, so I ran out of space here, but never mind. We're not finishing the whole painting, so it's just an illustration to illustrate to you how to go about this painting. So I add another. This is like a tiny little. It's not really a fence, but like a block of bricks for the garden, I guess. And then there's the walkway. Okay, now you can put in the windows. So this line here, there are two windows here. And one here. We've got plants here. Okay, another window over here. Now you have to follow the perspective line. So this is steeper. By the time you reach here, it's not as steep. And this, remember, this line is your eye level. So when you reach the eye level, it should be flat like that. There are a couple of windows here as well, and some over here. You can hardly see any windows here because it's shaded. So when it comes to painting impression style of watercolor, you don't really need to fill in all the details. So sometimes it's just a few brush strokes to suggest the windows. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with the drawing now. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just to Okay, I'm just gonna do the first wash, all right? So you can either use a mop brush. I have another brush. This is slightly different from what you've seen on the picture, but it's the same thing. It's a squirrel mop brush. But mop brush, it is really absorbent and sometimes carries too much paint and water. So if you're not doing a large background, sometimes you may find it very difficult to control. Sometimes I prefer, if I'm not doing too big area, I actually prefer to use a sable brush, a large number, this number 18, or you can make do with 12 or 14. Okay, so I'm not going to paint the sky and the background. I'm just going to jump straight to the cottage. So it is a, we call it honey colored, I believe. So I'm going to use yellow ochre. Okay, but it is not that yellow. I guess it's because there's bright sunlight shining on it here, so it's slightly lighter. So I'm going to dilute it with water and kind of warm it up a bit with burnt sienna. Dilute it again. Okay, you notice that it's really diluted now. Okay, and I'm going to go over the whole house with this color, with this mix of diluted yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Okay, and that's the thing with watercolor. You have to ask yourself, do I need to preserve the white of the paper? In this case, I think there are some reflected lights on the window here. So, and it's really bright here. Okay, so I might keep a bit of the white of the paper here, and I might add a bit of water after the wash to make it brighter. Okay, so I'm gonna paint the whole thing. So this is the first wash.
And I'm assuming that you've got your board at a slight incline. Is that right?
Yes, I have this thing that
That's right. Yeah.
It's more like a between 10 to 20 degrees of incline, so that it helps the watercolor to flow downwards all the time. So if some artists prefer to paint it on a flat table, but I find that watercolor wash tend to stay stagnant at one place. Sometimes when I'm just finishing a wash like this, and depending on the subject, I'm not finished yet actually, I still have a lot more to go. I'm just telling you, before it dries up, and depends on the texture of your subject, because this is a brick wall, I tend to flick a bit of water on a wet wash so that it creates some kind of a texture on the wash. And I'm mixing the colors again. So it's actually much better if you can pre-mix more colors and you don't have to stop and then try to, you know.
What blue did you use there?
This is a lavender color. Okay. I mean, you can use colors. You can use maybe cerulean blue, but the idea is to dilute it as well, and then I just splatter a bit of it onto the existing yellow ochre wash. The idea is to give it a little bit of variations to the wash. Otherwise, it looks a bit too flat. And because this is a a brick wall, and you can see from the picture, it's not really flat. There you can see the patterns of the brick. So by introducing a bit of lavender, which is a cool color, whereas the yellow ochre wash, I consider that as a warm color. So it gives a bit of color balance as well. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, perfect. We're going to just take a little break while that painting dries, and we're going to take this opportunity of having a look at some of Marvin's previous works of art for a little bit of inspiration, and we'll also then talk a little bit about his upcoming workshop event, his 2 to 3 hour workshop webinar, which is happening later this month, that you can book onto. So Marvin selected a few paintings that he's going to talk about that are related to the upcoming workshop and today's class. Let's have a look at some of those now. So where this looks very quintessentially English as well, Marvin.
Yeah, so this is almost similar place. It's also Cotswolds, but a different village. This is, I believe it's called Bibury.
Okay.
So I painted this as part of my class demo last year. So it's the same very scenic view with lots of greenery, as well as those honey-colored cottages. So we have the same type of lighting with the brilliant sunlight coming down from the top left-hand side. So this is bright and this is shaded.
Yeah.
And I love to play with brush strokes to suggest foliage, and then with this type of scenery, it's kind of really soothing to look at, I guess.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. We've captured the light really well there.
Okay, the next one. This is in Singapore. This is we call it a shop house, whereby back in the old days, the family will reside in such a building where they will run their business. Sometimes it could be a coffee shop, or it could be a bicycle repair shop or whatever. And then at night they will go up and then spend the night upstairs. So a lot of these shop houses now is being converted into cafes and what have you, nightclubs and all sorts of businesses. Some offices, some people turned it into an office as well.
Right, okay. And I think you've caught the mottled light there because there's quite a lot of intricacies at the top, just underneath the frieze, and I think you've kind of yes, and you've captured that really well. Brilliant.
And this is to give you a glimpse of what a traditional village looks like in this part of the world. So in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of this type of villages where the cottage or the houses are made of wood, or some of them are quite run down. I would say it's like they will use a zinc plank to main some of the broken down walls, and it's kind of it's really different from what you have in the UK or Europe. But these are very traditional dwelling areas in most of tropical area as well. I guess because of the climate and it's the hot and humid weather we have here. So it has to be airy, and then you've got lots of windows and
yeah. And your brush strokes there have really accentuated the perspective in that scene as well, haven't they? With all kind of going away from exactly, in the movement.
So you'll find a lot of play with lights and shades in most of my artwork. So I like to paint things that are brightly lit, but then it has very dark shadows as well. So it gives a sense of the weather we have here as well.
Yes, yeah.
This is actually this was a commission painting, but I just want to have a trial of the colors before I paint on the real commission. So this was my practice piece.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but for the commission, usually for commission painting, the clients usually want it to be in details. They want everything to look sharp and nice. But I was just testing the colors, so I told myself, what the heck, I just want to do it very quickly. And then you
Yeah,
can tell that this is very loose, and I painted really quickly because I was just testing the color combination, whether this orange sky can, how does it look like with the greenery around and the shaded
yeah.
area.
So
And
kind of
like
almost like a tonal and value study in a almost like a
all of that
yeah,
come color study. So I'll show you this because that's how watercolor can be so versatile. You can paint really detailed photorealism type of painting, or like what I usually do, which is quite detailed, but you can see a lot of brush strokes. Or you can paint something that is even much looser, like this.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. No, that's
Okay.
really interesting. Thank you for sharing those. They look amazing. And in the chat, let me know what you like most about that. Is it the colours and the vibrancy that Marvin uses, or is it his use of light and shade, as he pointed out? I think that's is really interesting. What do you prefer in those paintings that stand out to you? Um, Now, if you're watching the highlights show on YouTube of this show, then and you're loving the art that you're seeing today, we'd really appreciate it if you could hit the thumbs up button. It then recommends the show to more viewers, helping us with our mission to inspire more people to give art a try, young and old alike. So thank you in advance for that. Also, if you press the subscribe button on YouTube, you also get notified when we release our next art class tutorial as well. So it's well worth hitting that too. Now, let's go back to Marvin and discuss what we're going to be covering at the end of this month in his longer workshop webinar. This is where we ensure we go at the correct pace for attendees, and we cover lots of extra techniques and tips. We sometimes go off piste a little bit and go and talk about other little techniques that he's picked up in painting that painting, and the result is not only a nice painting, but you also improve your art as well. So so what are we covering? I think we're going back to the Cotswolds. Is that right, Marvin?
Yes. So what we're going to do in the 2-3 hours workshop is actually the same area. This is
Okay.
Burford in Cotswolds. So what I'm going to paint in the longer workshop is, I think if you've seen the reference photo, it's actually this part of the street, but it is more of a one-point perspective. So you see both sides of the street. You see the houses or the cottage on the left, and
Yeah.
then a bit of the right. I chose almost similar scenes so that you can relate from what you're watching today, and then you can apply it at the workshop later on.
Yes, perfect. And you've got a painting that's similar in style, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is also at Cotswolds, and this is also the same town, uh, Burford, and this you got this church tower, and then you have this one-point perspective view, which is similar to what we're gonna do
Yeah. Which is
previous
slightly
time.
more, slightly more technical because you're working on both sides of the street and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, because we've got 2 to 3 hours, it means we're going to have a lot more time to go at your pace and make sure that you can all finish. So that will be the result. So thanks, Marvin. And if you do want to join us for this event, it's taking place on Thursday, the 21st of October. So in exactly 2 weeks' time, at the earlier time again of 10 a.m. UK time. Obviously relating to Singapore time zones, we needed to make it a little bit earlier. You also have the option of purchasing the recording, whether or not you can make the live show. Now you can either book by clicking the link just here, or I'll share my screen and I'll show you how you can do it via our website right now. You head over to shopkeeparty.com and you click on the live events section at the top. So these are all our upcoming live events that are happening this month, and you can see here, you can spot that watercolor there, and click on the see details button, and it then goes through and explains a little bit more about what we're going to be covering, what you'll be covering. This is the reference photo that Marvin's given us for that particular workshop, and here's the example painting that he's just shown you. He's got the recommended materials there, so you can see that. If you do want to top up on anything, we've got a 10% off from Jackson's Art, and Karen earlier said that the Bahong paper is available from Jackson's as well, and they ship globally. So if you are creating a new account, it's well worth having a look. You can book the webinar there. If you're a patron of ours, which obviously most of you are on this show, you can get 20% off with that link. You click on the link, it comes through to Marvin's shop, and you can either purchase the live webinar ticket or the webinar plus the video, and then just simply add it to cart. And although it's in pounds, your bank will convert it to your local currency after checkout. If you do order the video, head over to Shopkeep Arty after the event has taken place. Click on the video section at the top, and there is our video library. Marvin's will be at the top there, but obviously if it's after a month or so, you can search by artist. So simply search for Marvin on here, and you can see at the moment, you can see some of his previous classes that he's done with us. And if you want to purchase it because you haven't purchased it before, and then once you have purchased it, you can watch it, or as a patron you can watch it there. The other bit that I really like to look at is the class info button, which obviously gives you the reference photos, but there's a link there to our Facebook post relating to the class, and you can then scroll down and have a look at what some of the attendees have created in that class. You can click on one and have a little look and things like that. So it's a really nice thing just to have a bit of a nosy and see what people have done, and give them a like or make a comment. Is really nice and positive, but you can see the feedback from that class as well. So I hope that's been useful. Now it's time to go back and rejoin Marvin. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll now hear some music as the rest of this tutorial speeds up. Like the other patron special shows we broadcast, the full-length recordings can only be watched by our supporting patrons via our video library that I've just shown you. Anyhow, I hope you've been inspired by what you've seen today, and that we'll see you at one of our upcoming live events in real time next time. Goodbye. as we near the end of the show, if you've got any words of thanks that you'd like me to read to Marvin, now's your chance to write it down on the Q&A so that I can pass it on to him. Also, Marvin and I'd love to see what you've created from today's class. The post relating to this show is already on Facebook, so search for Shopkeep Arty on Facebook and you'll find it there. You can also link to it via the class info page on our website as well. If you don't do Facebook, you can always put it on Instagram and hashtag ShopkeepArty as well, so others can admire your work. So this brings us to the end of another fantastic show. If you want to join Marvin and I for the full workshop, remember to visit our live events section on our website to sign up. I'll now go back to Marvin and read out some of the comments we've had. So it's been really fantastic. Thank you, Marvin. It's been lovely. Carol said, very useful hints and tips. Thank you, Marvin. Barb said, thank you so much for a great demo, Marvin and John. The lesson on perspective was great and the explanations of each of your layers was very clear. Eva said, what a lovely way to start my Thursday. Thank you. I'll have a go later. Thank you, Marvin and John. And Karen said, way too fast for me. Learnt so much from Marvin. He's so good at explaining everything. Thank you. Can't wait for the workshop. And Wendy said, really enjoyed it. Thank you. So I've had a really lovely time. Thanks for that, Marvin. And I appreciate you taking a part of your day to go through that. And it's a really lovely subject as well. And the Cotswolds, it's just so beautiful. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. Karen even lives there. She might even be able to have you over for tea and cake. You never know. So next week, we're in the US, traveling to Colorado and then Minnesota to paint with Randy Hale and David R. Smith, respectively. We've also got a lovely floral workshop with Megha Kapoor in India, which I highly recommend signing up for if you're into watercolour and floral arrangements. You also get a further 20% discount if you're a patron as well on that particular workshop, so it's well worth taking a look at. And on that note, it brings us to the end of another great show. Don't forget to secure your place on Marvin's workshop on the 21st. So until next time, it's goodbye from me, but obviously thank you so much for your time and all those tips and everything. Very generous. Thank you to Marvin. Thanks, Marvin.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for having me and see you at the workshop.
Yeah,
Bye.
Looking forward to it. You get a big round of applause. And we will finish on your painting. Thanks, Marvin.